guys, it's Mia here, and welcome back once again to another bookish video. Now, you could tell I'm in a bit of a different spot in my room, and I'm not sitting down. So, the reason I didn't post Tuesday, which I kind of hinted at in my last video, was because I was doing a bit of rearranging in my room. As you can tell, I'm at a completely different angle at a completely different side of my room, because now my bookshelves are on top of each other, and there's a giant PC on the other side of my room. So that was the reason all my stuff was getting rearranged, and all my books were everywhere in my last bookish video. I was working on a spot to put my PC, so hopefully I can get back into gaming videos now that I have my own PC. But it's going to take me a while to get used to the editor and figure that out. So that's what I was doing Tuesday. So for today, for this bookish video, I told you guys in the last bookish video that The Hunger Games was absolutely calling my name. Now, I want to do something like I did with Twilight and do a read the book, watch the movie, read the book, watch the movie, until the entire series is done. Now, I absolutely love this book. I love this book. Suzanne Collins does a good job in the beginning of establishing how poor all of the districts are compared to the capital. She establishes right off the bat that our character is not just super efficient in this one thing because she picked it up and she's perfectly good at it. It took her years and years and years of practice to get as good as the bow as she did. And that's because she had to use that bow in order to feed her family, because the capital is sucking the districts dry, and they only allow them to have meager amounts in order to survive. Whatever they make, whatever they grow, whatever they manufacture, it all goes to the capital. They barely get any of it. So she had to learn how to hunt in order to feed her family, her sister, her mother, and herself. So I really like how right off the bat she does tell you she is not good at this because she's chosen to do it. She's good at this because she worked to be good at it. Like a lot of these stories and stuff like this has a character picking up something and they're like super efficient at it right off the bat. No practice, not knowing they could do it before, and they're just better than anybody else at it. And that's not realistic. But by establishing right off the bat that she worked for years to get as efficient as she did is good character writing. It's realism that I really appreciate. And it just shows that she is human. She's not some super efficient demigod at what she does. She's not some chosen hero that was prophesized to do this. She did it because she had to do it. And I love that. And then the stark contrast with the capital, whereas everyone in the districts are struggling and barely able to feed themselves. The capital gorges themselves. They have lavish houses, the best technology, the best money can buy of everything. They have outlandish costumes, so much makeup, and just they are living it up while everyone in the districts is struggling to provide the life that they have. The people in the capital do not work. It's everyone in the districts. They're reaping what the districts are sowing. And I feel like establishing that contrast as quick as she does is really great, because it gives us a realistic look and a natural look at the contrasting between these two entities. Now, in case you don't know, which you probably already do because this book has been out for a while, The Hunger Games comes into play because once every year or so, a candidate between the ages of 12 to 18, which it says in here that the last age you can be picked in the reaping is 18. So once you're 18 or before you're 12, you are safe from the reaping. But every year after that, your name gets put in a bowl, and each year you get put in one more than the previous year. So the first year your name is put in once, the second year your name is put in twice, and so on. Unless you barter your name in the reaping to get extra food. Because then you're using your name to get the extra food, so they put your name in more than once. Which is another thing Katniss had to do to keep her family alive, because her dad died in a mine explosion and then her mom shut down due to depression, which Katniss is very angry at her mom for, because she felt like she left Katniss and her sister alone to fend for themselves, which is another reason Katniss had to be as efficient with the bow as she was. Because if it wasn't for her doing everything at that point, her and her sister would have starved. So it explains that the Hunger Games came around because after a war that happened with the United States, and yes, it is in the United States, I did not know that, but a war happened, and so the Hunger Games are punishment or an example of what happens during that war. Like, this is happening because the war happened. You brought this on yourselves. They do it as like a way to keep people in check. So the day of the reaping comes, and Prim, which is Katniss' sister, is going into the reaping for the first time. And Katniss is like, well, there's no way you're going to go into the reaping. You're going to be fine. Your name is not going to get picked for the Hunger Games. But unlucky Prim gets picked for the Hunger Games anyway. So Katniss, being the protective, good sister she is, volunteers herself for the reaping, which automatically draws the attention of everyone in the Capitol and everyone in the Hunger Games, or everyone in District 12, because they broadcast these games. They treat them like the Super Bowl, for example. They treat them like the Super Bowl. They are events where everyone gathers to watch these kids just in a bloodbath, which is sickening. But her name gets chosen. Katniss intervenes and says, I volunteer as tribute, which means she's sending herself into the Hunger Games voluntarily, which no one hardly does, especially in District 12, because apparently no one in District 12 has ever won the games because they're severely underfed. They are the poorest district that exists. So once Katniss volunteers for the Hunger Games, she is brought into the Capitol world pretty much. She gets to experience the huge amounts of food, the richness of it, the whole extremely advanced technology, the people, which they drive her insane. And honestly, I'm right there with her because they're so over the top and so much makeup and just really annoying in the way that they talk. I would probably be as pissed with them as Katniss was. Not to mention they're putting all the other districts into this position in the first place, which is absolutely despicable. So after like a week of experiencing all the lavish luxuries of the Capitol, they have to go in and start doing stuff for the Hunger Games, like an interview and training and all of that stuff. So one thing I really like is how Peeta decides to use his crush on Katniss in order to draw sympathy for both him and for Katniss from the audience. Like, at first, you feel like it might just be a game, like a trick to unite themselves against the Capitol, but then you start to think, well, he's known her for years in school, and then he saved her life by giving her bread one time, even though he took a beating for it. And then there's just little things that Suzanne Collin does to hint at the fact that he's not just playing the lover boy angle to get sponsors or to get sympathy, but he actually genuinely cares for Katniss. And that kind of adds another layer to it, because not only is Katniss questioning his motives in saying that he cares for her, but it also plays on both us as the readers and the Capitol audience that's watching the games. Because some of them think this is a bunch of bullshit, they don't actually care for each other that way, but a lot of them think this is so sweet, they're the star-crossed lovers of the Hunger Games. And I really love that aspect of it, because it's kind of like he's unintentionally and intentionally playing a mind game at the same time. And this is a love story that I think is done really well because of that. It's not hand-fisted, freaking love at first sight bullshit. She uses that love as like a mind game to the Capitol, to the characters, and to us. Because we don't know if he's genuine, or if it's a trick, or if it's a bit of both. And I love that. This is a well done love story because it's not just a love story. There's motives behind it. So, with that comes the actual games themselves. And I absolutely love how they do the games. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's weird reading about teenagers dying to the games, and it's sad. But just the whole, like, intricacy of the games is absolutely insane to me. Like, they seem like they're outside, but it's actually a controlled simulation pretty much. And they have systems in place. It's set up like a clock, like quarters of a clock. So the game makers sit there in like a control booth and watch the tributes play the game. And if stuff starts to get stale, they will use those quarters of the clock areas in order to sick the environment on the tributes to keep them closer together, or add some more action in when the games get boring for the Capitol. I almost said for the tributes. But it's so brutal to read. It's so brutal because these adults, these higher ups in society, are putting these kids through this for a bit of entertainment. This is entertainment to them. They are sitting there watching kids lose their lives for entertainment and for punishment because of a war that happened 100 years ago. They are so desensitized to this bullshit, they are actually betting on who will survive. That's how desensitized they are to the games. They're sitting there treating it like we would treat a Super Bowl. That is insane to think about. Like you could become that desensitized to death that you could just sit there and watch the brutal event happen. Not only watch it, but sit there and bet on that. And they think it's fun. Like, whew. But that is, it's just a well-written story, and there's a reason that it was so popular, and a reason that it still holds up today. Hell, I still see videos about people doing Hunger Games in real life. Obviously, they don't actually kill people, but they do, like, reenactments of Hunger Games in real life. This book is so well written. I love how the love story is used. I love just the contrast between the Capitol and the districts and the people even. Each district has such different people. It's so divisive. And just the way she explains the different worlds, not different worlds, but different parts of the world, all the different districts. The way she writes the games, the cannons, the cornucopia that'll blow up if you step on it before the timer runs out, the feasts where you go in the middle of the games to get supplies you desperately need, the forcing the kids into survival situations and to fight for their life. That's not a good thing, but she writes it well. Like, she took time establishing this world, and it shows because it still holds up today. But holy shit, if this is here in America, we don't want that kind of system. Leave the kids alone. But it's just so brutal, and she doesn't hold any punches, and it's just, she throws you into it. If you're not into that kind of brutal killing, slicing, then I wouldn't read this book. But if you're into a good action, fantasy, dystopian story, well, not really fantasy, it's kind of grounded, more dystopian realism, this is a good one to pick up. And in my opinion, it's better than Divergent. But just Suzanne Collins has a brutal, calculated writing system, and I love it. Yet with all the complexities of it, and all the detail she puts into it, it is super easy to read because you get so sucked into all the differences in this world. It is amazing, and I highly recommend it. Now, I'm going to go into the second one, which I have not read. I read the first one in 8th grade, so that was a reread for me, but I still think it absolutely holds up today. I have not read either Catching Fire or Mockingjay. This is so much easier like this to do. I love my new bookshelf setup. But anyway, you don't want to hear about that. So I'm going to go into Catching Fire next. I'll probably watch the movie either Sunday or Monday and do that for Tuesday. So, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope to see you next time. I'll shut up now. Okay, bye guys.